Nigeria, which is the giant of Africa, was in 2016 declared as having the largest economy in Africa. Lagos, which is the commercial nerve center of West Africa, has become a major hub for international business and services, and recently labeled as one of the most desirable investment destinations in sub-Saharan Africa. Rising above the skyline of this prestigious city is the first ever tri-tower building in West Africa, which is a unity of 3 towers combined into structural beauty and functionality. Trinity Towers is a unique and world-class development brought to the market with modern technology and state-of-the-art facilities. Carefully and futuristically conceived, it is an edifice which provides a sync between business, functionality, elegance and lifestyle. This meticulously designed mixed development of commercial, retail, hospitality and leisure space is located at the heart of the fast-developing commercial center of Veniru, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. Trinity Towers is a development of the RCCG City of David with a trademark of excellence, employing the services of Eyitope, contractors and consultants who are best in class. This multifaceted building is set to raise the bar of A-grade real estate in Nigeria. It is a state-of-the-art development with importance given to structural detail, all at a competitive rental price that is market-friendly. The iconic design, easily accessible location, futuristic specifications, and perfect blend of office and relaxation facilities sets a new standard for Nigeria's architectural landscape. The development boasts of over 13,000 square meters of contemporary real estate spanning 12 floors, with multi-story car park for 670 cars, a 5,000-seater concert hall, other multi-purpose halls seating over 2,000. There is indoor amusement for children, shopping strip, 2 cinema halls, a gymnasium, helipad, games arcade, medical center, cafe and restaurant, banking halls, ATM gallery, and lots more. The development is within easy reach of Lagos financial, commercial, and residential environments and has neighbors such as 4 Points by Sheraton, Lagos Oriental Hotel, ExxonMobil headquarters, the Palms Shopping Mall, Civic Center, Hard Rock Cafe, and lots more. Trinity Towers offers a distinctive presence, thereby changing the skyline of Western Victoria Island. Welcome to a whole new experience of business and leisure from 3 towers in one elegant building, the Trinity Towers. This edifice is set to be the best and most functional building Nigeria has seen to date. For further details on how to be part of this dream by taking a space in the Trinity Towers, please contact the Estate Links Group or Knight Frank and Rutley Nigeria on 0818 001 0000. The future is indeed here.
Good morning. Welcome everyone once again to another experience session for the month of May the year 2023. It is indeed our pleasure to have everyone here today, this wonderful Saturday morning in West Africa, and probably whatever the time is in your own time zone. Welcome and thank you all for joining. Once again, my name is Oyeneyin, and I'll be anchoring this program today. As it is our custom, we would like to say welcome to everyone, while others are also joining, and we would like to go straight into the business of today. Before we go ahead and do anything, I'm going to call on Pastor Stacy Ilega to please start with the opening prayer and kick us off. Thank you. Over to you, Pastor Stacy.
Good morning, Shegun. Good morning, everyone. It's a joy to be here this morning, and we just want to honor our Father, commit the session into his hands, and he do what we are doing here right now. And so let's just, we slept and woke up because the Lord sustained us. Thank God for Networks Business Club. Let's thank the Lord for our pastor, our visionary pastor, Iluyomade, and his beloved sugar baby, Pastor Siju. Iluyomade for their leadership and how the Lord has called them forth, even to the vision of exceeding greatness. Is the reason we are doing what we are doing as a church. We are thinking even outside of the box. We are visionaries, and we are doing great and mighty things, being an example to the world. So we just bless the name of the Lord for our leaders and thank them, and thank the Lord for their lives. And let's also use this opportunity to thank the Lord for the Network Business Club, everyone who has been here faithfully committed to doing the work. We have said we'll be having sessions, and they have been faithful. So the Lord has kept them faithful. Let's pray upon their lives that his steadfast love will never fail concerning them. His mercy will endure forever in their lives, and as well as that of their families. And let's thank the Lord also for our guest speaker who has been invited today, our very own dear Eyitope Oyeneyin, and thank God for our husband as well, and for our family. He's the one who has sustained her through the years. I'm praying that this session, even as you and I have come, thank God for you and thank God for me, that we have another opportunity to learn. Let's pray that the Lord will give us an understanding heart, as we have always come here to learn from experiences that the Lord has enabled others to have and that have been a blessing to us. We are learning. We get to learn from the experiences of others, that the Lord will use this one even as a new experience for us and bless us and equip us. What we take away from here today, we would use even in our own businesses, in our places of work, and the Lord will have something. Just ask the Lord that, whatever you want me to take from this meeting, don't let me miss it in the name of Jesus. Let's pray that everything will go well. Pray that the network, we're all connected online, that it will be a wonderful session for every one of us. Everything will be perfect. And at the end of the day, we have every cause to glorify the name of the Lord. Father, we just want to thank you, for it's one thing for us to plan, but you are the one who brings it to pass. So we thank you for today, another wonderful opportunity to learn and to be in your presence, and for this fellowship. Blessed be your name forever. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Stacy. We really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to move on swiftly into the program for today, and we can see more people have joined us. So we welcome those that are just joining us now. Thank you for joining as well. Okay, before we go ahead as well, we would like to know where you are joining us from. So if you're joining us from Lagos, just let us know. If this is Lagos is your location, you can just type Lagos. If you're on YouTube as well, we also acknowledge those watching us on YouTube on our channels, RCCG City of David, and those watching us on the Networks Business Club channel as well. So wherever you're joining us from all over the world, let us know your city. Just type it in the chat section, okay, and let us know. Oh, I can see Bumi Akingbade all the way from Ibadan. Thank you for joining. Stephen Fee, Lagos, Nigeria. Chukwuemeka Okoro, Port Harcourt. Oh, wonderful. From wherever you're joining us in the world, just let us know, more people, so that we'd like to know exactly where you are watching us from, and thank you for that. Also, there's also another thing I would like us to do for me as we also go ahead. So I want you to also share the invite with others as well. So if you're on Zoom or even on YouTube or on our socials, Networks Business Club, just go to our channels and share the invitation with others, with your friends, your colleagues at work, your business partners, or anyone at all, even students, younger ones, anyone that you think will be able to benefit from this particular program today. Share it on your WhatsApp status, everywhere you can share it, and invite others. And I know more people will keep joining us as we go ahead. So let us also do that as well. So welcome everybody. Onyade Adegite, we see you all the way from Lagos. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. Okay, Oluwase Yojo, all the way from Abuja. Nice. That's from the capital city. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us. Adenike Fumilola, thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're excited today, please type excited. I know it's a wet Saturday in some places, but let us get our engagement on. I would like to know that you're also with me, and you're also hearing me clearly, and you're participating. So if you're excited, type excited, excited. I want you to type excited, even on YouTube. Type excited. Let us know where you're joining us from, and let us know that you're excited to be here today. Indeed, you need to be ready, because today we have a very special guest in our midst today. We have a very special guest, and our guest is already in the building, who is going to share her story. I'm sure some of you will be wondering, what is she going to talk about today? and how would you be able to relate and connect? By the time she shares her story, not just her story and what she's currently doing, I am sure you will be inspired. I am definitely sure you'll be inspired. Thank you, Queenette Oloyede. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ifeoma Akiri-Lulu, thank you. Excited, wonderful. So we acknowledge everyone. Thank you for doing this. We see more people joining us on YouTube as well. Samson Olajide, grateful heart all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. We see you, Lady Esther J, all the way from London. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for also being excited. Yes, that's the spirit. Fantastic, fantastic. Still share to more people. Let them also know we are live and we're ready and we're set. So you can still share the invite while the program is going on. Also know that this is also streaming live, like I said earlier. So if you want to have a recorded session later on, you can always go to our YouTube channel and also listen to this as well. Fantastic, fantastic. So we're going to move ahead swiftly. And at this point in time, I'm going to call on another special person who has been with us all the way from the beginning, and who is always with us on all our programs and everything we do offline, online. She's a pillar of support. She's a strong pillar in the Networks Business Club, and she's going to take on the remarks for our chairman today. Our chairman is unavoidably absent, and that's Pastor Ernest AB, OFR. And today we're going to have Mrs. Folake Adama, who is going to represent our chairman and give us the opening remarks. Over to you, Mrs. Folake Adama. Thank you.
Thank you, Segun. Great job always. God bless you. I would like to welcome you all onto this platform. Every month, we all look forward to this amazing experience. We've been blessed to have so many great men and women, teach us and, lead us and show us into their life experiences. And we've been learning a lot of lessons from that. Please permit me to just share a little bit about the business networks. On behalf of our chairman, Mr. Ernest AB, you are warmly welcome from every part of the world to this May 2023 experience session. This session, it's always so highly impactful, inspirational. It's just amazing. Everyone who I've had a lot of feedbacks and responses from those I've invited over the months, and the way it's transformed their life is incredible. Maybe there will be a time where we bring in people to share their testimonies regarding the experience. It was born out of the need to create a platform where Christian men and women could network, grow their friendship, grow their contacts and their businesses, and also learn from industry captains. A network business club is also, we believe, it brings in everyone. It's not just Redeemed Christian Church, even though it's created by it's funded by the Redeemed Christian Church of God through the inspiration and leadership of our dear Pastor ID, of our amazing Pastor ID, who is a pastor. Pastor Siju Iluyomade, who is the convener of our Rise. And this has been growing from, leaps and bounds over the months, over the years. And we've had great men and women. We've had the MD of Cadbury, Mrs. Imi Kadiboye. We've had Pastor Shola, David Bora, who is the CEO and managing director of the group managing director of Standard Bank, of Africa, and we've had so many, Mr. Adetu, we've had Mr. Sumono, we've had so many people, and there's so much more coming on, and we have our dear sister coming in today to I love the title of what she's going to uncommon. Let's think about that word as we listen to her as well, who is one of the partners and leaders in McKinsey, Ms. Eyitope, Oyeneyin, who is also one of our pastors who have spoken on this platform. Business Networks is created to empower Christian men and women to exercise dominion in the complete and absolute dominions, as it says in Genesis 1:28. Permit me to read this. And God blessed them, verse 28. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. We can't just be saying this with our mouth. We have to believe it in our heart, and we have to make sure we are really, really, really having dominion and taking dominion. And I really want to bring our nation, Nigeria, into this focus that, especially at such a time as this, that there's a transition between the government, the past leadership and the one taking on. I think the power is in our hand as Christians. The power is in our mouth. As it says in Proverbs 11:11, a city becomes great when the righteous gives it their blessing. But a city is brought to ruins by the words of the wicked. Are we the wicked? or we are the righteous? We need to ask ourselves as we're on this platform today, and then even if we move beyond that, what is our impact upon this nation, Nigeria? Are we among those who pull it down with what we say, passing a lot of videos and so many negative things about Nigeria? Or are we among those who are praying for the nation and building up the nation with our mouth, with what we say? Because the Bible says in Matthew, it said, whatever you say, when you say it, in Mark 11:20, it said, say, when you say it, even mountains can be moved and be thrown into the sea. So when you say it, anything can happen. So we have dominion. There might be leadership. There might be those who are, a lot of us are complaining of Muslims and this. This is the time to come together as one Nigeria. We do not want to have this nation that we have built over the years, and with all the problems we've been through and we're still surviving, for it to come to ruins. We don't want to experience that for the future of our children. So I really, really, implore you this morning, my brothers and sisters, my mommies and my daddies, my pastors, that we are among those who are building this nation with our mouth. The heart of the king is in the Lord's heart. We are the one to pray to the king to transform and to turn and to shape the heart of the leadership. What is the purpose of the church? This is our time to impact and to transform our nation for good in the mighty. Nigeria is going to be great, and God is going to raise us to be among those who are transforming this nation. And he said, even remember what JFK says, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. We should ask ourselves this when we leave even this platform. I really want to welcome you all. I want to thank you for joining us every month. Please encourage, like Segun has said, invite your people, invite your colleagues, invite everyone to really join us on this network. There's a lot of networking, there's a lot of learning, and lots of training. Other trainings, even up to being even given, being connected with the CBN, loan and everything. So please join us as we, transform, the church and the nation for God in the mighty name of Jesus. God bless you. You're all welcome.
Amen. 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 Thank you so much, Mrs. Folake Adama. Can we appreciate her, please? Just use the emoji button and say thank you. You can just say thank you or thumbs up, or just type thank you as well. Thank you so much, Ma, for your time and for your presence. We really appreciate you. Let us appreciate her. Say thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Adekunle. Thank you for engaging as well. Oluwase Yojo, thank you, thank you, thank you. Fantastic, fantastic. We can see more people are joining. So we welcome everyone once again. Just thank you for joining, and keep coming and keep inviting all the others. By the time we get into the main session, I'm sure we'll have more people joining us as well. We also acknowledge those on YouTube as well. We see you as well. We acknowledge you. Thank you. Okay, at this point, because we're business-minded, we're going to move on straight into the other parts and items we have on our program today without wasting much time. But before we do that, we'd like to recognize and acknowledge the two people who are very dear to our hearts. First, we'd like to acknowledge our dear father and our dear pastor, who is Pastor Iluyomade, and he is also the pastor in charge of RCCG City of David, and also Region 20 of RCCG, and the head of the Apapa family. He's also the special assistant to the RCCG General Overseer on Christian social responsibility and a lot of other things and caps that he wears. Ladies and gentlemen of the experience session, definitely without the love of our father, Pastor ID, I'm not sure we will be here doing this today. He's the visionary, the one that always encourages us and encourages us to do what we do every time. So let us appreciate Pastor ID. Let us send our love to him. I'm sure he will be hearing, and he will definitely be connected with us. So let us appreciate Pastor ID as well. And we cannot appreciate Pastor ID alone. He has his sugar with him all the time, like he always says. Let us appreciate our one and only Pastor Dr. Siju Iluyomade as well. Indeed, she's a mother in Israel. Let us appreciate Pastor Siju as well. Please use your emojis on YouTube, on Zoom, wherever. Just appreciate them. Appreciate them. Let us appreciate that. She is also the convener of the Arise Women's Network. And for those of you that don't even know about Arise is a major organization, a faith-based non-governmental organization committed to accelerating nation building through the empowerment of women in the society. In fact, what Arise is doing for the past, over a decade, for years, so many years, it has been unprecedented. And she's also the pastor in charge of the Handmaidens Fellowship of the City of David. Let us appreciate once again Pastor Dr. Siju Iluyomade. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much, ma. We appreciate you all. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Thank you all to all our participants. I like your engagement. I love your engagement. Adenike Funlola, thank you. That means you're also giving me feedback that you are really listening and you are ready. So now we are going to move on swiftly. Like I said, we're very business-minded as well. But before we do that, we'd like to take a message from one of our headline sponsors, the Trinity Towers. After the message, then we will bring our guest speaker on. So let us have the message and from our guest, from our sponsors. Thank you.
Nigeria, which is a giant of Africa, was in 2016 declared as having the largest economy in Africa. Lagos, which is the commercial nerve center of West Africa, has become a major hub for international business and services, and recently labeled as one of the most desirable investment destinations in sub-Saharan Africa. Rising above the skyline of this prestigious city is the first ever tri-tower building in West Africa, which is a unity of 3 towers combined into structural beauty and functionality. Trinity Towers is a unique and world-class development brought to the market with modern technology and state-of-the-art facilities. Carefully and futuristically conceived, it is an edifice which provides a sync between business, functionality, elegance and lifestyle. This meticulously designed mixed development of commercial, retail, hospitality and leisure space is located at the heart of the fast-developing commercial centre of Veniru, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. Trinity Towers is a development of the RCCG City of David with a trademark of excellence, employing the services of ITV, contractors and consultants who are best in class. This multifaceted building is set to raise the bar of A-grade real estate in Nigeria. It is a state-of-the-art development with importance given to structural detail, all at a competitive rental price that is market-friendly. The iconic design, easily accessible location, futuristic specifications, and perfect blend of office and relaxation facilities sets a new standard for Nigeria's architectural landscape. The development boasts of over 13,000 square meters of contemporary real estate spanning 12 floors, with multi-story car park for 670 cars, a 5,000-seater concert hall, other multi-purpose halls seating over 2,000. There is indoor amusement for children, shopping strip, 2 cinema halls, a gymnasium, helipad, games arcade, medical center, cafe and restaurant, banking halls, ATM gallery, and lots more. The development is within easy reach of Lagos financial, commercial, and residential environments, and has neighbors such as 4 Points by Sheraton, Lagos Oriental Hotel, ExxonMobil headquarters, the Palms Shopping Mall, Civic Center, Hard Rock Cafe, and lots more. Trinity Towers offers a distinctive presence, thereby changing the skyline of Western Victoria Island. Welcome to a whole new experience of business and leisure from 3 towers in one elegant building, the Trinity Towers. This edifice is set to be the best and most functional building Nigeria has seen to date. For further details on how to be part of this dream by taking a space in the Trinity Towers, please contact the Estate Links Group or Knight Frank and Rutley Nigeria on 0818 001 0000. The future is indeed here.
The future is indeed here. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Okay, at this point in time, I'm going to briefly read the profile of our guest speaker, then we'll welcome her specially on board to take over. So, but before I do this, please type ready. I want you to type ready on YouTube, on Facebook, on wherever you're watching us from, just type ready. Adebayo Karim, we see you on YouTube. Thank you. Michael Akishete, thank you. Fantastic. Make sure you get your pen, your paper, your notepad, your iPad, whatever, your Android pads, whatever pad you want to use. Get your family together. Make sure you have your pen and your paper ready to be able to take down information that can clearly change your life, can clearly change the trajectory of your career or your business, whatever it is. And let us come with an open mind and an open heart. So if we're ready, I'm going to quickly read out the bio of our guest speaker, then I'll bring her on. Mrs. Eyitope Topsy Kola Oyeneyin is a partner and co-leader of McKinsey's payments practice for the Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa regions, where she serves leading financial services institutions and fintechs to develop and scale innovative products and services. She's also a thought leader on financial services innovation and has co-authored reports on how to unlock the potential of digital financial services in Africa. Topsy is a transformation expert with more than 20 years of global experience working with financial institutions, regulators, and investors across Africa to develop ambitious growth programs and execute large-scale transformations. Prior to rejoining McKinsey, she held various executive roles at the leading financial services providers, including running an international banking business across 9 countries, designing and implementing a corporate transformation program, and managing an extensive operations network spanning head office operations and hundreds of branch offices. She also served as the pioneer head of the central bank's shared services department, where she led the successful design and implementation of Nigeria's payments transformation program, tagged Cashless Lagos. Topsy holds a Master of Science degree in Management Science and Engineering from Stanford University, and she sits on the advisory board for Endeavor, an organization empowering high-impact entrepreneurs for business growth. She is passionate about everything digital and empowering young Africans and how the effective intersection of both can accelerate economic development, achieve SDGs, and also transform African economies. She shares on Twitter, and her Twitter handle is @TKOE-Insights, and LinkedIn @Topsy-Oyeneyin. The most interesting insights and ideas on the topics, questions for innovators, and principles that equip young Africans to rise, find expression, and thrive. Ladies and gentlemen of the experience session, we bring up to you our guest for today, one and only Mrs. Topekola Oyeneyin, as she talks on the topic, seizing uncommon opportunities. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Pastor Olusegun. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be on this platform. First of all, I'd like to say a very big thank you to Pastor ID and Pastor Siju for this opportunity. I watch Networks Business Club regularly. I listen to a lot of the different episodes. And I think when I was first asked to speak, I was wondering, what am I going to speak on? Because if you watch this program frequently, you know the sort of people that come on this platform, people that have built significant businesses, have multiple years of experience and all of that. So initially I was really, I wasn't sure what I would speak about. But as I reflected on it, I felt that I was going to share about my persuasion. And, you know, my personal story will be intertwined with that, and I'll pull out different examples. But I really felt that this would be a great opportunity to share a very strong personal persuasion about the time and season that we're in, especially as Christians in the marketplace. And that's what I'm going to be sharing about today. It's a Christian business club, so I will be, you know, referencing quite a bit of scripture. It's not a sermon, far from that, but it's also not a motivational speech or a business presentation. It's just really, you know, a deep sharing in terms of the personal persuasion. So I'm going to put up my slides. If you just give me 1 second, and then we'll just take it from there. Please confirm if you can see my screen. If I can just have either by
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so where do we start? So let me just quickly start with an introduction about my background and context from the perspective of our topic on common opportunities. And I'll try and tie it all together. I'll start with a little bit of my journey, and then I'll speak quite a bit on common opportunities, how to recognize it, and then I'll try and tie it up at the end in terms of what I've experienced, because some of the things I'll be sharing today are things that I've personally experienced. So they are not theoretical, they are real life experiences, and I'll pull from my life and from some other examples that I've also had the opportunity to interact with. So in terms of my context, Pastor Sheldon read my bio, but I think maybe if I were to introduce myself, I would say at the core, I consider myself a transformation agent. And a transformation agent, not in terms of just a role, but in terms of what at my core actually drives me, what at my core drives me, and what has driven sort of my career choices, so far throughout my professional journey. And I think this is important because at different points in my career, this drive for transformation has been what informed whether I joined the company, when I left, what I did, what I didn't do. And it has also been what has created access to uncommon opportunities. And when I think about transformation, a big part of that is national transformation. And not just because I love Nigeria, even though I do, but because I really feel that Nigeria holds such an important place in terms of prominence and in terms of respect for Africans and Blacks all over the world. And I believe that until we get our acts together, a lot of other African countries, a lot of Black people will not get the respect that they deserve. I often tell people that not a lot of people necessarily care about. You might not like the Chinese, but you have to respect them. And I feel like in the case of Africa, because we've not sort of had our economic, we don't have economic empowerment, and so therefore we're not really respected. And so that has been a passion of mine, to see us realize that potential that I believe is there. And that has been what has driven my interest in national transformation, in business transformation especially. I'm very passionate about businesses. I tell people that business is like a hobby for me. I actually enjoy it. It's not just what I do for work, it's just what I do, it's what I enjoy. It's also driven sort of my interest in digital and financial services innovation. I'm not interested in digital just because it's the in thing and everyone is talking about digital, but because I truly believe that digital innovation is that key that can help Africa leapfrog. I believe that as a continent, we're so far behind that, we need some uncommon advantages to help us sort of jump, a couple of eras, leveraging the power of technology. And that's why I'm very passionate and do a lot of my work in that area. And then last but not least, I'm very passionate about the youth. I'm very passionate about youth just because, number one, a significant portion of this continent, and specifically of Nigeria, are young people. But I'm also very passionate about youth because I have also had the privilege of getting a lot of opportunities when I was very young. And so I feel that I understand the mindset of a young person trying to rise. And I feel that there's so much potential in our young people, and this is a season for them to find expression. And excited about how to help and support and in a way give back, given my own experiences. Now, in terms of my professional journey, which I'll try to run through very quickly, I studied industrial engineering. So my background is in engineering. And I studied industrial engineering because I wanted to understand how to make things work better. I never knew there was a course called industrial engineering. I came across it when I watched a movie about the assembly line. It's about Frederick Taylor, and I think it was World War I or something, and the assembly line. And I was like, oh, that's actually an interesting career. And so I studied that in university in the US. After studying, or while I was studying there, my first job was at Walt Disney World. I wanted to work at Disney World just because I felt like it was an industrial engineer's dream. It's a place where everything is about improvement. Everything is based on service improvement, process improvement, everything. And they're extremely detailed. And so I had an opportunity to work there in their hotel maintenance and turnaround department. And that was quite an eye-opener. Following that, my first job out of college was at IBM. It was a job in user-centered design, and the focus there was basically learning how to, design platforms and software, particularly just designing software that was friendly for the users. And it was quite a surprise to me. I was going to IBM, I was very excited. IBM had just done, like a mega turnaround. There was a book written about it who says elephants can't dance and all of that. And I was so excited, it's my first job to be working at IBM, only to arrive and find out that, there wasn't much going on, at least in my department, in my team. And one of my first lessons was that in big companies, there could be a lot going on in the company, and there could be key portions of the company where things were happening. But there are also a lot of sections of the company that is just day to day. I was shocked to find out that, you get to work at, 8:39, by 3 you're done. And as a fresh, student, as a fresh graduate just coming out of college, I had a lot of energy. I was in a new town. I didn't know anyone. I was ready to work, and there wasn't much work. And I could have just basically, I guess, gone with the flow and, closed at 3 and not did much at work. But one of my first uncommon opportunities was basically offering to help a colleague who seemed to have a lot going on. And I just felt like if I'm going to be here, I might as well learn something during this period. And in the span of about 10 months, I spent just 10 months at IBM in that first role. I was able to file for 2 patents with this colleague by helping him. It wasn't my project, I wasn't invited, but by volunteering to help him, we ended up filing two patents at the time. Fast forward on from there I went to grad school at Stanford University to do a master's in engineering, in the same industrial engineering. And the uncommon opportunity there was not going to Stanford because people go to Stanford, but the uncommon opportunity there for me was going to Stanford on a fully paid scholarship. Fully paid scholarship to PhD level. But I think what was even more uncommon was how I got that scholarship. It wasn't just by applying and having a good application and having good scores, but I got that scholarship by helping a professor who was in distress. And I had no idea that she would be the one who would refer me for the scholarship or give a recommendation and all of that. I just saw a woman who was in distress and I offered to help her. And basically that opened up that whole opportunity for me at Stanford University. While I was at Stanford University, when you're at Stanford, everything is very entrepreneurial and, it almost feels like, there's something in the water that makes everyone want to start a business, you want to be in a startup and all of that. And I remember during my summer period while I was at Stanford, I tried to get an internship with different consulting firms. I didn't get an offer. And I'd gone for a conference at Harvard Business School where I met an interesting person, I just met an interesting guy. And we got talking and I was like, this guy is very different. And he told me about a business that he was starting in Jos. And said, listen, why don't you come? There are a couple of us that we're building the next thing. Again, this whole theme of transformation. We're planning to transform Nigeria. We're starting from Jos. And he, gave me a picture of this whole big dream. And I decided to go to Jos. At this time, I had an offer from a private equity company in Lagos. I grew up in Lagos, so I'd never been to Jos at this time. But I decided to not take the private equity role in Lagos that was straightforward and clear, but to go to Jos with this person that I met and this group of young people to basically try to build something. The name of the company was AfriOne. The venture failed. There was a whole bunch of drama there. It didn't work out. But through that experience, I basically made a lifelong friend who would later become critical to every career opportunity that I would get subsequently. And again, as we go forward in the discussion, I'll help tie all of this together, but I'm using this to basically set a bit of context. After AfriOne, I joined McKinsey & Company on a referral from this friend that I met who I worked with in Jos. I worked with McKinsey & Company for a number of different years. I served in different industries, financial services, telecom. I served across different countries in Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa. And eventually I moved back to Nigeria to work, to help McKinsey & Company open an office in Nigeria. And at that time, I was fully focused on establishing McKinsey & Company in Nigeria when I got an opportunity out of the blue. Actually, it was my friend who first got the call to join the new MD of First Bank to basically run strategy for the bank. And he mentioned to this friend that, I'm also looking for someone to drive transformation. So do you know anyone you could recommend? And this, my friend then recommended, I know the perfect person, and recommended me. And I remember telling him, I said, listen, for the first life, I'm actually for McKinsey and something and all. Why don't you I'll stay at McKinsey consult for you. So that was the plan. But I said, I'll still each one out of respect for, it's a great opportunity, but just to say thanks, but no thanks. Apologies, I think I lost my network. I'm not sure where I lost you.
Okay, you were talking about, I think, the first bank opportunity, and you can also help us scroll your slides as well.
I'm sorry?
As in, you can also make sure your slide, your PowerPoint. Yes.
Okay. It's back up. Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, so I was saying that basically this friend got an opportunity in First Bank, referred me for the opportunity. I said, no, I wanted to stay at McKinsey and Company, but I'll go and see the new MD who happened to be His Eminence Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, who had just taken up the role at First Bank. And so I went to see him to thank him for the opportunity, but to say no thank you, and to also, in my mind, to evaluate the opportunity on behalf of my friend to see if it would be a good fit. But when I met him, and in the first 5 minutes of speaking with him sharing his vision of what he was planning to do with First Bank and all of that, and literally it was in the first 5 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, I knew that I was going to work for him. And I decided then and then, I didn't say it, but the question on my mind at that point was, how am I going to tell my colleagues at McKinsey and Company that I'm leaving, But I was so clear that this was an uncommon opportunity that, I could not turn down. And so at the age of 28, I became a general manager at First Bank, tasked with driving the transformation of the bank. By the way, I was not a banker prior to this time. I have a background in engineering. I've served banks, I've done different things, but I'm not a banker. Like I said, if I ask myself what I am, I'm just a transformation agent. I like to see things done better. But during my time at First Bank, it was a great experience, a great development opportunity. I led transformation. I led the bank in operations. I led our expansion into sub-Saharan Africa, the integration of that, before I eventually left the bank. And I think for me, while I was there, when you're a consultant, you're usually on the advisory side, you're advising. But one of the reasons I took First Bank, well, one was to work with an uncommon person, to serve an uncommon person who I thought Sanusi Lamido Sanusi is. Secondly, was because I thought First Bank was a great platform to test run any philosophies I had on transformation, because I thought First Bank is a microcosm of Nigeria. And if you can turn around First Bank, then you should be able to turn around Nigeria. That was the logic. And that was part of what drove my interest in saying, oh, wow, this is something that I would like to try. While I was at First Bank, I also had, again, an uncommon opportunity to work with the central bank. I was just called up out of the blue, and I'll again try and tie it together at the end to basically do a secondment at the central bank to drive the shared services program, specifically cashless Lagos. And not the cashless Lagos of last year, so just for differentiation purposes. This was cashless Lagos in 2012. And so I had that opportunity. It was a great experience. Again, a transformation type opportunity, working with people who wanted to do something different and just being able to learn and drive that experience. I am now back at McKinsey and Company. I currently serve in our Lagos office as a partner. I lead a payments practice in EMA, which is basically East Africa, Middle East, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And we do a variety of things around digital financial services into innovation, and all of the rest. So that's a bit of my background, and maybe perhaps more importantly, maybe some highlights of some opportunities I've had, and what has been at the driving force behind those choices that I've made as far as my career is. Now, to the core of today's discussion, opportunity. And I'm sure some people might have been wondering, what is seizing uncommon opportunities about? And I think here is where I get into my full persuasion. I strongly and deeply believe that we're in a time of unprecedented opportunity, just not in a time in Nigeria or in a time in Lagos, I mean, in a time in the world where there's unprecedented opportunity. The scripture talks about, making the most of every opportunity, knowing the will of the Lord. And so I think that's the first point. I believe that we're in a time of uncommon opportunity. I'll share why. I'll show some facts around why I strongly believe we're in that season. But beyond that, it's saying that even when there's uncommon opportunity, for us to make the most of every opportunity, we need to understand what the will of God is. And the will of God is thy kingdom come. The will of God is simply thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And what does that thy kingdom come mean? It means his reign on the earth, his way of doing things, his approach, his philosophy, his values being implemented here on earth. It means discipling nations, discipling sectors. I firmly believe that, business is a platform for ministry. Business is a platform for influence, for impact, and a number of those things. And so his kingdom come is discipling nations, discipling sectors, discipling governments, so to speak. And then his kingdom come is the gospel being preached to all nations. And as I think, Apostle Selman would say that the gospel is expensive. So the gospel being preached to all nations, the gospel is free, but spreading the gospel is expensive. So the gospel being preached to all nations will require resources. And this is why I believe that Christians in the business space, in the marketplace, are going to be positioned for this end time agenda with uncommon opportunities to execute on these different things, uncommon opportunities to be in places of influence, to disciple nations, to disciple sectors, uncommon opportunities for resource, for wealth creation, for wealth transfer, to fund the kingdom agenda, to advance the preaching of the gospel, and all of that. So that's a bit of the context in terms of where we are, times and seasons. Now, if we step back, because remember I mentioned that, this is not just a feeling, it's not just a persuasion, but history also supports the fact that we're in a time of uncommon opportunities or unprecedented opportunities. So on this page, basically, you just see a picture of, 1914, the last sort of season of the pandemic, the Spanish flu, the period of 1914 to about 1918 or thereabouts. There was the Spanish flu. The world was just wrapping up World War I. And after that period, there was recession and all of that. And then the next decade, things just took off, right? Popularly called the Roaring Twenties. It was just a time of growth and boom and every other thing. And similarly, where we are now, we've just come out of the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a global recession. Well, there's a recession in different parts of the globe, and people believe that there's one that's looming around the corner across nations. But it's also clear that in this decade, there will be an unprecedented boom. It's going to come. And if we look at the factors that drove the boom in 1920s, you see very similar things at play in the time and season that we're in. And this boom was driven by a core factor of technology that accelerated a lot of things in terms of production, that made things more accessible, that created new products, that made mass production feasible, that created jobs, and then had a number of different factors. So there was sort of economic decisions that helped in terms of credit access, in terms of policies that allowed business to run and things of that nature. There were political factors that you can see similarly playing out right now. Countries defending their turf, protecting their homeland, protecting their products, and those sort of things that you can see playing out now, on the global stage. And there were also social factors coming out of the pandemic. There was a lot of a sense of, live now, lest we die, a push for expression. That was the decade in which women's voting became a thing. That was the decade in which more women joined the workforce and found expression. There was a lot in terms of fashion changes and cultural changes, just a number of different things. And a lot of it was spurred by what technology enabled. And again, if we look at where we are now, we can probably map similar things to what went on during that point in time. Now, if we take a specific example of the automobile and what actually happened, and now we're talking with respect to identifying opportunities. I use the automobile because when you think about the 1920s, that was probably the symbol of the acceleration and the progress that occurred. In the 1920s, the Ford T model was rolled out. And that was when a number of people got cars because the Ford model was produced using a technology of mass production, so conveyor belt and assembly line. And what that did was that it enabled a lot more production of these cars. It cut the price of production it was 30% of the initial cost was what these cars were now being produced by. And even more importantly, it enabled you to have less skilled workers producing cars. So you were able to employ a lot more people, pay them lower rates, and so on and so forth. And that spurred a number of different things. And what you see just around this car are the different industries, the different services that now came to be because of this Model T, because of this automobile production. So steel production became and grew. It accelerated because you needed steel to make the cars. Real estate development became the big thing outside the urban cities because now people had cars and they could afford to live further out and not have to live in town, in the center of town. Car dealerships became a new service, a new place where you could display these cars, sell cars, and so on and so forth. The market for parts became its own subsector. You had to produce tires, you had to produce glass for the cars and other service parts that were required. Highway construction boomed because now that you had cars, you had to create the infrastructure for these cars to ride on. So there was a lot of construction, which meant a lot of jobs, which meant a lot of, again, products and raw materials that were coming out from these jobs. And there was now a lot of tourism because people could get from point to point. So hotel construction increased, people were moving, fuel was being utilized and all of that. So all of that was specifically related to the car. But in addition, there were these other effects that were almost what you call multiplier effects going on at the same time. There was the purchasing power of people because people were getting employed. There was more earning power. But in addition, there was innovation around credit. So people were being enabled to put, part payment, installment payments, and all of the rest in order to fuel purchase of these new products that were being made available. So that was a big multiplier effect, not just to fuel purchase of cars, but to fuel purchase of radio sets, to fuel purchase of, fridges, things like that were being produced at the time. Mass advertising was another big thing. The radio became a big thing during that period. And what that enabled businesses and services to do was to basically just promote business, promote services, promote things, made you almost like, for consumers, made you aware of different products and services and increase the appetite for consumption. So radios, catalog shopping, those sort of things. And then electricity, which was major. Electricity was major in terms of just, the press printing machines that would power some of this mass advertising and these catalogs. Electricity was required for car production and a number of other things. So there were things that were happening in one area, but because of these different effects, there was just a boom. Everything was exploding. And that was basically how, one example of how one opportunity or one trigger unleashed so many different things in the economy. Now, from 1914, what are some of the lessons that, that we learned or that we know? One is that the trends that were accelerated in the 1920s did not start in the 1920s, but they were accelerated then. And in the same vein, the trends that are going to be accelerated in this decade are not things that started now. I'll give you an example. We've been talking a lot about ChatGPT and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been around for a while, but it's just in this recent time, in the last few months, that it has been almost mass-produced on a scale that it could be in every hand. Every hand could leverage artificial intelligence, and that in itself is a big game changer. So that's one example of saying, it's not that we're identifying new trends. These are trends that have already been, but they are going to accelerate during this time. The second lesson of 1914 is, this mindset of live now, lest we die tomorrow. It's about culture. It's about cultural changes. It's about the impact of those cultural changes. If you talk to people, anyone in HR and talent management, they'll tell you that, the nature of recruiting has changed. The way you engage staff, the way you, your value proposition, it's not just even about how much you pay. It's about whether they want to be there. It's about what they feel about the culture and all of those things. But that's just one example. But the point about culturally, there are changes, and also the sense of listen, let me just experience life, because we don't even know what happens tomorrow. So that was what was going on. Third is the whole concept of technology-driven consumption. The increase in consumption, economic stimulation, and all the rest enabled by what technology produced and what technology could then enable. And then last but not least, we know that there were multiplier effects from different trends fueling each other. You couldn't even say it was this that caused this, that caused that. Everything was happening together and it was creating an explosion. That's what we learned from 1914. Now, if we come to where we are today and we think about what could be the implications for us from a mega trends perspective, if you look on the left-hand side, there's a picture of a plane and arrows pointing in either direction. And I wanted to use that to explain the concept of tailwinds and headwinds. If you have a plane that's sort of trying to rise, headwinds are those things that push against the velocity of the plane and make it more difficult. It's not that you can't fly through headwinds, but you're going to take a lot more energy to push against the headwinds because it's a force coming against you. Whereas tailwinds are the things that are sort of propelling you, right? They enable you to sort of acquire speed, not even by what you've generated, but by the wind that is just carrying you, that's already coming from those tailwinds. Why are tailwinds important? In this season, when we think about opportunities, identifying uncommon opportunities starts from identifying what are some of the mega trends at play. What are the mega trends at play globally? And I mean, if you're looking also specifically in Nigeria, you could also say in Nigeria's specific context, what are those mega trends? Because those are the tailwinds that would help you identify things that could really just take off, because those things are already in play. And I've listed some of them. They are not comprehensive or exhaustive by any means, but it gives you a sense of where some of the opportunities are. Things around climate change, things around diversity, equity, and inclusion, things around supply chain dynamics, remote work, and so on and so forth. I'll give an example on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Shortly after the sort of Black Lives Matter movement and all of that, about, I guess, 2 years ago now or so, I had a colleague, a junior colleague who was based out of the UK, who said she was, leaving McKinsey because she just got a great opportunity. What was the opportunity? Her and a friend had an idea they had been playing around with, just bouncing around different sort of ideas. But they ran into an investor, a company that was looking to invest as part of their Black Lives Matter program. And what was their criteria? This company needed to find, a reasonable idea, smart, preferably Black women who were looking to do something. It was a tailwind. They were in the right place at the right time. They had an idea, they had great CVs, and this company was desperately looking for something to invest in to show that, they were part of this, Black lives and empowerment and so on and so forth. That's an example of a tailwind. Now, if we step back, the question you might be asking is, what could this mean for Nigeria? And I'm sharing this not to say, oh, these are where the opportunities are or not, but it's just to open our mind to apply some of these concepts to where we are, to say what could some of the opportunities be. When you think about fuel subsidy removal, tons of multiplier effects exist with fuel subsidy removal. What's going to be the implication on transportation? We've already heard or seen, I'm sure, the news about, mass transport, electrical vehicles coming in. What does that mean for transportation? What does that mean for the infrastructure that would power that transportation? If the price of transportation is going to become increasingly expensive, what does that mean for how people work and remote work and policies that might be instituted in the workplace? What does that mean for housing and locations and where people live and so on and so forth? That's just one example. Remote work is something that we're all familiar with coming out of COVID, but I'm not sure if we've all embraced the fact that with remote work, it's about you're in a global market with a global marketplace, that you don't necessarily have to cater your product or service or business to Nigeria. There are a lot of Nigerian companies who leverage developers abroad, who have a team here in Nigeria, but are working with people in Mexico. There are a number of young Nigerians today who've trained themselves as virtual assistants, but I think that their market are Nigerians, as opposed to anyone, as long as you have the skills and the competency to compete. Another example is sort of the tensions between China and the US. You know, I was speaking to a friend in the development sector who said, you know, last year there was a big US meeting, US Africa forum, where the US was, sort of re-emphasizing its commitment to the continent and what it would like to do and all of that. And part of that whole discussion was saying, listen, for our donor funds, we would like to do a lot more of localization. We would like to do a lot more for the funds that we give, instead of it being implemented by US businesses. We would like for it to be implemented by, you know, African businesses, owned by Africans, registered in Africa and all the rest. And today that is not the case. Today, there are funds looking for African businesses, but the capacity to receive the amount of funds is not there. So what does that trend mean as China and the US vie for positioning and for influence? How does that create opportunities within where we are? And perhaps one of my big things, I strongly believe that artificial intelligence is going to be very similar to the assembly system that we spoke about in the 1920s. The assembly production technology that enabled mass production of automobiles and spun off a number of things. I really do believe that artificial intelligence is going to enable mass production, mass productivity, that is going to spur a number of things, change the way people work, change the kind of people that need to be employed, and so on and so forth. So as we reflect on finding uncommon opportunities, these are some of the things that we need to be thinking about and thinking through. So in trying to sort of now bring it down to how does this all matter? We don't know exactly what will happen. You know, it's a question mark. I firmly believe that this will be a decade of rapid changes, rapid, advancement. But I think three things are for sure. And this is both from, a personal and professional standpoint, which is one, is that power will change hands just by the nature of life and time. There's a generation that will pass away and the generation that will come into power. So that's one. That in itself is an opportunity. Two is that new wealth will be created. As new industries are created, as new sectors of the economy are created, new wealth will be created. And there will be new millionaires, quote unquote, overnight, because they will be at the right place at the right time. Whoever gets into electrical vehicles when it booms is going to be a new wealth, someone created by this new sector, so to speak. And there are others like that. And three is that mantles will be given. And I speak here now from a spiritual perspective that mantles are going to be passed out in this decade. I don't know when, I don't know how or whatnot, but it's just something we need to be sensitive to, because again, these are all uncommon opportunities. Mantles will be given in this season. And the question for us as Christian people in the marketplace is, are you going to be rightly positioned to recognize, seize, and make the most of these opportunities? So how do we position ourselves for these opportunities, and what does it take? On this page, you see a few of my favorite people. It's not comprehensive or exhaustive, but I put them up here as masters of the game in their different fields. Serena Williams in tennis, that's it's not something you argue with. Denzel Washington in film, Jamie Dimon in finance, or Nathaniel Bassey in music, for example. And these are people that have seized on common opportunities. They are masters of their game. And when you look at them, they operate across three dimensions. They typically combine elements across these dimensions of how they operate, how they relate, and how they work. And you might be asking, what does that mean? How you operate, how you relate, how you work. And it's broken down here. These three dimensions, I firmly believe, are the things that we have to master in order to take advantage of uncommon opportunities. Actually, it's the things we have to master to be positioned for, to recognize, and to seize uncommon opportunities. The first is how we operate. And, for lack of a better word, I call it our personal capital. How we operate in terms of our level of discipline, our level of prudence, our intentionality of speech, and the level of as quality associations that we have. Not the number, not the quantity, but the quality of relationships that we have. The second is how we relate. And this is what I'll call our social capital. Integrity or trustworthiness, teachability, honor, and compassion. Honor, our ability to show honor, our ability to show compassion, and ability to be teachable, to learn. And then last but not least, how we work, how we execute the things that we do. And I'm speaking here on an individual level because I know we have a range of people here. Some might be career people, some might have their own business and all, but I've tried to break it down to an individual level, but it can be applied in your business and in other areas. How you work is about knowledge, is about diligence, planning, and justice. And I'm sure you might be thinking, what does justice have to do with how you work? But remember that we are discipling nations. We are advancing the kingdom, God's way of doing things. God is very, very passionate about justice. And a lot of times, if we only apply that concept of justice to the way we work, the concept of fairness, the concept of what is right, even customer service will not be an issue because we will execute customer service with justice, with the sense of what is right, what is proper, and what is fair. Now, across these 12 dimensions, at any given time, we might apply some of them, right? So it's not that if you have to apply all to see it, but obviously the more you apply, the more uncommon opportunities you identify, or the more uncommon opportunities you're able to seize. And I've highlighted a few in blue because as I reflected on my own life, I can't say I've already attained all these 12. But the ones I know that have had the biggest impact on my life in terms of uncommon opportunities have been quality relationships. I mentioned to you about a friend that I met, I don't want to say randomly, but sort of randomly, who then became a channel of opportunities professionally going forward. Teachability has been major. I was a GM at 28. I was not a banker. I had to learn. I had to have an approach that enabled me to learn from people who knew and enabled them to want to share with me what they knew and not to resist me. Teachability has been very big. Honor has been something that has unlocked great opportunities. And for me, it's not just even opportunities, but blessings that empower you to access some uncommon opportunities. Compassion was how I got my my graduate fellowship, fully paid just by supporting someone in distress. And then knowledge, and I'll talk a little bit more about this. Okay, so I'm going to try to bring it all together. I know it's been a bit fast, but I hope you've been able to follow. I'll try to recap before I'll share these final few reflections. The whole premise of my conversation today is that we are in a time of uncommon opportunities. But for us to maximize and to be able to even recognize and maximize those opportunities, there are things that we must develop and practice in ourselves individually. And those same things can be applied in businesses, in families, in governments, and so on and so forth. And so, as I try and bring it all together, I would like to share these three things, these three core things with you, and then I'll share some personal examples. I believe that three indicators of uncommon opportunities are: one, the opportunity to serve uncommon people. If you find an uncommon person, please do not be in a rush to leave their presence. That was the secret of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth said, do not force me to leave you. Wherever you go, I'll go. Who will be your God will be my God, and so on and so forth. In my life, I thank God for the grace to recognize uncommon people, right? It's not professional, but the grace to recognize in my husband an uncommon man, that was a grace. That was an uncommon opportunity. The grace to recognize in this person I met randomly at a conference that this guy is different. That was an uncommon opportunity that unlocked so many doors. The grace to recognize that SLS is an uncommon man, an uncommon leader. That was another opportunity that locked uncommon doors. So that's key, the opportunity to serve. And these things are all about service. The ability to serve, the willingness to serve. The second indicator of uncommon opportunities is an opportunity to solve an uncommon problem, a big pain point, something that's high impact. It's not the things that we should run from. And that was David's secret. David said, why is everyone running from this Goliath? And it's because he had understanding. Understanding the will of the Lord helps to make the most of that opportunity. David said, who is defying the host of heaven's armies? And that was an uncommon problem. If we look around today, as a business person, as a professional person, there are a lot of uncommon problems to solve. You know, the beauty and the pain of Nigeria is that problem is not our issue. Big problems are not our issue. There are plenty to solve. And the question is, which one would you focus on? And how does that guide your choices, your decisions? How does that guide where you spend your time? For me, part of my career progression has been a desire to solve uncommon problems. Even if the paycheck wasn't as attractive or whatnot, but the problem was exciting enough. So that's the second one. And then the third is this opportunity to help people in distress. You don't help people in distress because you think, oh, what am I going to get from helping someone in distress? But I strongly believe that helping people in distress unlocks things that you could never imagine. Helping people or someone in distress that you are capable of helping is a major unlock for uncommon opportunities. Now, very quickly, life is a journey, pace yourself. I know we always say, oh, life is a journey, pace yourself and all, but my encouragement will be maximize each season wherever you are. Don't say that, oh, we're pacing ourselves now, so, we'll just take it easy. It's not that I shouldn't take it easy, but maximize. Why am I where I am today? And while I'm here, what am I going to do while I'm here? What am I going to learn? What networks am I going to make? What impact am I going to have while I'm here? That's so important. I spoke already about not being in a hurry to leave the present to common people. I think this third one is so important. Part of what opens our eyes to recognize opportunities is knowledge, reading, being curious, and paying attention to problems, to issues, to policies. And I think most importantly, it's not just paying attention and reading, because at times you can read and never process, but finding that time to just reflect and step back and say, what does this all mean? How does this all affect me? I know of people who have been in industries, they are professionals, they are experts in their fields, but opportunities in their sector pass them by because they are so focused on their day-to-day. They've not taken time to step back and say, what's happening? What could this mean? What could the opportunity be? So I think that's something very important. If we want to maximize, if we want to recognize and seize opportunities, we need to be able to pay attention to what's going on, but even more importantly, reflect on that information that we receive and say, what is the implication for me? The importance of serving with excellence continuously, consistently, because we really don't know the day the opportunity will knock, and people are always watching. One of my clients at McKinsey & Company now, I didn't realize that part of why they had reached out to me while I was at McKinsey & Company was because of what they heard about me when I was in First Bank. And I had no clue, no connection. And that was about, maybe the gap in this would have been 2012, 2020, about 8-9 years. 8-9 years later, they actually sought me out to say, listen, we have a problem I would like you to look at. But what I didn't know was it was based on a reputation from way back then. So serving with excellence consistently is actually very, very important. I think one of my, if I want to say just like one of the things that has really, really helped me in life is being open-minded to learn from anyone and being honest about what I don't know. That open-mindedness has helped significantly. I'm a consultant. What I do for a living is provide advice. And typically that could put you under a lot of pressure to know everything, to come across as though you're the smartest in your room and so on and so forth. And of course, you should know something about something so that you can add value to your client. But I find that, trying to outshine or tell your client how smart you are is not really the path forward, because typically your client has been in that industry longer than you have. They are operating in it, they do it day to day. So they are actually really experts. But the value you bring is different opinions and being able to step back and put it all together, draw parallels and so on and so forth. But your ability to engage your clients and engage different people across the organization is by being open-minded. When people feel that you're open-minded, when people feel that you're honest, you don't come across trying to pretend to know what you don't know or package and act like you know things that you don't. People are just able to relate better with you, and you then have the benefit of leveraging on everyone's knowledge, because people will share with you. The Bible says that the meek shall inherit the earth, and I strongly believe that the teachable, the people that are open-minded, the people that are humble to learn from anyone and everyone, are the people that truly inherit the earth, according to the word of God. Focus. Distraction is a big challenge that I see today across board. One of my, someone I greatly admire, one of the leading CEOs in Nigeria, I can mention his name, Mr. Siju Agbaje. He's someone that I admire for many things, but for his ability to focus, his ability to concentrate and deliver on something. In a world where everyone is distracted, everyone is running around with multiple things, this is someone who just has a very focused agenda and doesn't move on his priority list until he has knocked those things out. And I believe that is a very powerful concept. For people that will take opportunities and make the most of it, you need to be able to focus and to squeeze out from every opportunity all the different things that you can get out of it. Preparation, extremely important. They say you prepare for war in time of peace. You prepare for the off-season in time of the off-season. You can't prepare for the season when the season shows up. You can't prepare for the opportunity when the opportunity shows up. And I really love this quote by General Eisenhower that says, plans are nothing, but planning is everything. Because I find that people get hung up about their plans, about their plan not being perfect. At times, people don't even create a plan because they feel, well, I don't really know that much, why would I create a plan? But the process of planning is actually what is important. The process of planning causes you to reflect. The process of planning causes you to research. The process of planning causes you to think. And it's this combination of things that opens your eyes. I find that, the story they say where, for example, maybe someone mentions to you, oh, have you seen, I don't know, a white Volkswagen? And you're like, no, I haven't seen it. But after that person mentions it to you, you start seeing white Volkswagens everywhere, as though the white Volkswagens just suddenly appeared. No, the white Volkswagens didn't suddenly appear. Your mind had been open to the concept of a white Volkswagen. So when you see one, you recognize it, you spot it, you start seeing it. And that's what happens when we prepare. When we plan, when we reflect, it brings certain things to our consciousness. And when we see it in the environment, we recognize it. And that's how people see things faster than others. The things are all there, but some people's minds have been attuned to that frequency and they're able to spot it. And then last but not least, again, connected to being open-minded, but I think for me, this one might be, maybe the biggest unlock of all, honoring all men. Even if you have nothing, if your business has nothing, if you will have nothing to offer, you can start by honoring all men. Honoring all men is the key to unlocking virtue from people. It's the key to unlocking virtue. I don't know a better way to put it, but the Bible says honor all men. It doesn't say honor big men. It doesn't say, honor influential men. It doesn't say honor, it says honor all men. All men, from the security guard to, all the way to the CEO, all men from, the cleaner, all the way to the president. Honor men, honor offices. I find that in Nigeria, one of the things that we've lost, especially also among younger people, but I think across board, is that we've lost our respect to honor offices. Because we are not pleased with what's happening in certain offices, certain leaders and all, we disrespect the office. We think we can speak anyhow about the office, but we forget that we are meant to honor the office. Even if you don't like the person in the office, you need to honor the office. I also feel that this honor all men is also both ways. Again, I find that I don't know if it's cultural, and as someone who was younger, I want to believe that I'm still young, but time will tell. But as someone who was younger, and maybe someone now on the other side, I think I've seen it both ways. I find that at times we have a culture that does not, definitely today you have a challenge whereby you find young people not honoring older people. And that is locking release of knowledge, virtue, and every other thing from the older generation to the younger generation. But likewise, you also find that there's an honor for a young person. There's an honor from an older person to a younger person that's also lacking. So there's this big disconnect. And for us to be able to access and make the most of opportunities, there has to be a flow across both dimensions. And I believe that honoring all men, younger, older, smaller, bigger, whatever dimension, is key to that. One of the greatest blessings of my life came from showing honor. Showing honor, you know, on a plane ride, I ran into a man of God. And when I say a man of God, this is not a quote unquote popular man of God. I'm not trying to define men of God by popularity, but what I'm trying to say is that this is not anyone that is not popular, so to speak. But I recognized him. I didn't know him from anywhere. I recognized him. And I felt that, oh, I should give up my seat because I saw him having a discussion. It seemed that he had booked his flight late. The seat was, you know, the flight was sold and so on. And there's a whole story. I could just see it from the background. And something just told me, offer him your seat. And at first I resisted in my mind. I'm like, no, you know, I have a long flight. There's a lot going on. I really need to, you know, I need to focus. And also, please, that would look like eye service, you know, why am I offering him my seat? Did he ask me? All of that. Anyway, I had all this internal debate in my mind. But the thought still came to me that just offer him your seat. And if you offer him your seat, insist that he takes it. Don't say you offered him and he said, oh, no, it's okay. And you happily, you know, took your seat back. Anyway, I eventually offered this gentleman my seat. He, of course, refused and all. I insisted and eventually took it. I had a business class seat. I got into the plane. I took his seat. I didn't know where he was seated. I just exchanged mine for his. And the seat they had given him was like at the very end of the plane, you know, at the very, very end of the plane, in a middle seat. And as I sat on that seat, in that middle seat at the end of the plane or whatever, I sat down and I slept like a baby on that flight. I slept like a baby and I slept smiling because I felt like I was just in the right place at the right time. I felt like God was smiling on me. I felt like I had obeyed God. And that simple, how do I say, instruction, or that simple show of honor. As I got off the plane, this gentleman had waited for me and he blessed me from his heart. You know, when some things are released to you from deep inside. And I won't go into details of those things, but everything he spoke that day over my life came to pass. And so that's just one example of honor. You know, if we're looking to really have uncommon opportunities, to access them, to seize them, we have to become people of honor. And it's not people of honor to people that we know or people of honor on certain days. Honor has to become our protocol. It has to become just how we behave, how we carry ourselves, how we act. On that note, I'll stop here because I can keep going on and on. But yeah, that's all I have. So I'll stop here and maybe we can open it up for questions.
Thank you so much. Well, please, can we appreciate our guest speaker, please? Use your emoji on YouTube, on Zoom. Use your emoji and let us appreciate her. Thank you. That's wonderful. Madam, I must say that even your career is an uncommon career. So many things that you have shared, and we have also listened to it, and it's been a pleasure listening to you. Wow, use your emoji, excited. Thank you. We're going to go straight into question and answers. And at this point, the format will be very simple. I have a couple of questions I'll ask you directly based on your presentation or any other thing that might come up. And at the same time, we'll give an opportunity to a few persons to ask their question. And if you want to ask your question on Zoom, kindly use the emoji to raise your hand, the button that you'll use to raise your hand. Ensure that your environment is appropriate, well lit, and ensure that you're not in a noisy place as well. We'll encourage everyone to please make their questions very short, sharp, and straight to the point so that we can maximize the opportunity we have here of the time that we have. Okay, so I would like us to go through that format. So we'll have questions and answers. For those that don't want to ask their questions live, you can also type this on YouTube on the chat box or on Zoom as well. And we'll be able to pick it up. The team will see this and we'll be able to ask some of those questions. Okay, I'll have the honor to ask the first question. And like I said, you've had an uncommon career because it's not everybody that can, you know, say, I'm not sure a lot of people understand what your role entails, being a partner in McKinsey, and what you have just done for us today. If we were going to quantify this financially, to say we will pay for this consultancy service, I'm not sure some of us will be able to foot that bill. at all. But notwithstanding, we say thank you for this. I'll just ask a question. You've talked a lot about your professional experience too, and this is an experience session. So we'd like to dive into the experiences and personal lives of our guests. So I'll just ask one question, or I'll tie this into maybe two questions. While growing up as a teenager, as a teenage girl, actually, let's go back a bit further. What kind of dreams did you have? If I can put it that way, I know it's a broad-based question. Did you see yourself at this particular, or if I'll say, do you think you would be in this particular profession as a consultant, or what would you have been doing? Would you have been, did you have dreams of becoming maybe like a pilot or maybe another profession? So what would you like to share about that?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for asking. I think growing up, that one is easy. I think from the age of 10 or so, my mom had asked me that, what do I want to be when I grow up and all the rest. And I told her that I see myself in suits, in high heels, carrying briefcases, flying around the world. That's what I wanted to do. I think I don't know why, because it's not like my father was a businessman or like my mom. My dad was a lawyer. My mom's an economist. But I just liked the world of business. There was something that just always attracted me. And I wanted to travel. I wanted to wear high heels. I think today I wear a little bit less high heels. COVID has helped me respect myself a bit. But I wanted to travel. I wanted to wear high heels. I wanted to wear blazers and just, move around. Apart from that, I also had, I like sports a lot. So I also had these, side dreams of, maybe one day I'll be like an Olympics basketball player or I'll play football. But, growing up in Nigeria, women don't play football. So that career wasn't looking very promising. But I still thought maybe the basketball one could work. But eventually I respected myself and just focused on the business side.
That's fantastic. Well, like they say, maybe you can still play a role indirectly in those particular areas. It doesn't have to be on the court, but maybe by the court side. Who knows? Who knows? Okay. All right. And so if you still have your questions, don't forget you can type them. We're also streaming live on YouTube for those that do not know, and this is a recorded session as well. If you'd like to ask your question, please type them in, but beyond typing them or dropping them on the chat, also ensure that you can also reach out to us. And maybe if you want to ask your questions live, once again, just use the emoji to raise your hand and we'll be able to do this. Okay, I can see a lot of people are even actually sharing testimonies of your person beyond just the questions they want to ask. Okay, we'll get to that as well. Maybe another question I should ask. You talked about how an individual can transform themselves and that keyword transformation, because it has come up in what you've said and shared with us. And I know we are also in a very, how do I put it, an interesting time in Nigeria. If you can bring it back a bit. Yes, you shared a couple of things. You've talked to us. We are mostly entrepreneurs and career people as well. Is there anything that you'd like to share other than what you shared about how Nigeria can transform? Because this nation is already existing, but as we all know, we would need a major transformation in the way we are set up and how we do. But from your own standpoint, just generally speaking, maybe on the public sector side, if you're going to advise anyone in government on a high level view, what key three things would you tell them to consider and how they can transform this nation?
Okay, thanks for that question. I think that's an interesting one. I think I'll say, when I talk to people, and I've had the privilege of speaking with leaders in the public sector, past and present, about Nigeria's, what Nigeria needs to do. I've had the privilege in being involved in some, transformation, economic blueprints and all of that, right? And I find that for Nigeria, the things that we need to do are known. There's no sort of like new solution. I don't think there's anyone coming up with any new that we haven't heard before. It already exists. The question is the boldness and the conviction to execute. It's execution. And execution is a function of courage. Do you have the courage to execute the things that we know that we ought to do to get us where we need to get to? Or are we going to make adjustments here and there and all the rest, right? One of the big topics on the table, as we all know, is subsidy removal. Subsidy removal is a question of first courage. Are we going to do it? Then there's a question of execution, executing it properly. Not just saying that we're going to do it is the right thing. The fact that we're going to do it and is the right thing doesn't mean that it can be executed anyhow, because if not, it will cause anyhow pain that could be avoidable, right? And that's where detailed execution comes in, thinking through, okay, what are the things that need to be done? What are the palliatives that will be put in place? How will it be rolled out? How will it be communicated? There's actual detail in execution that oftentimes we don't do and makes good decisions look like they're bad. So I'd say, in terms of driving Nigeria, courage and execution, very, very important. And just a few days ago, I was talking with, someone I respect very much, and he mentioned something which I took to heart, talking about the new government and what should we expect and so on and so forth, and he said, it doesn't take a lot of people in government to drive change. It actually doesn't. It just takes a few good men. In fact, truly, not just in government, but in any situation, in any institution, it actually takes a few good men. And when I speak men, I mean men, women, or whatever, a few good people. And if you look back to, when, during Obasanjo's government, which most people will acknowledge that was the time we made a lot of progress. When you think about that government, there are so many ministers that you probably can't remember, but there are a few that you don't forget. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala is one of them. There are few. Charles Soludo is another one of them. El Rufai, Nuhu Ribadu, Obi Ezekwesili, Dora Akunyili. You don't need too many. And so I think in this government, if we see a few good men appointed when ministers and key positions are announced, a few good men in some strategic positions, and if we see that courage to sort of do the things that we already know we ought to do, then that's a good sign for us.
Fantastic. Okay, all right. So there's a question I want to ask. I love a bit of storytelling. Sometimes I think stories help to convey some information in a different way for some of us to even digest better. But beyond just storytelling, your career has been fantastic, and it's still going to be, it's still on. You're still doing what you do and what you love, like you said, very young, very agile, very sharp, and so many things. So, but are there stories that you can share, maybe one or two? I know you talked about AfriOne, who was another person, which is another person's business. I think I know about AfriOne a bit, and that was a failed project. Yeah. Because we went to visit our chairman, Pastor Ernest ABMFR, recently, just as a club and as a team, and he was sharing one of his stories with us and talking about one or two things that people might regret, or maybe failure stories that you've heard about. Because as successful people, sometimes people don't get to see some of the things that challenges we've gone through. So are there stories you would like to share? Maybe you tried to do something and it didn't particularly work out, and you were still able to just move on. I think that would also be valuable to people here as well. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I have many stories I could share on things that didn't work out, things that didn't quite come together. But I'll share one that it's a personal story, but I think for me, it's a story I like to share because it really taught me the power of diligence. And again, this whole concept of uncommon opportunities. So, I mentioned earlier that I really wanted to play football, female football and all of that, right? So after secondary school, I did about a year or so in like high school in the US before going to university. And one of my hopes was that when I get to the US, that I could finally go and play female soccer. At least women play football there. In fact, at that time, the US soccer team was like the team. Their male soccer team, nothing was happening, but their female soccer team was all the rage. So I get to this school, and I'm excited to go and join the female soccer team, only to find out that they don't have a soccer team. And that was a big disappointment. So anyway, I go to join, I speak to the coach of the men's team and say, listen, I came to play football. This is my football dream. You need to help me. So I want to join the guys' team. And the guy looked at me and laughed and said, do you know what you're asking? To join the guys' team? Do you know what it's like to play with high school boys? Just even, the level of torture and the level of why put yourself through that? And I said, no, don't worry, I'll cope. And he's like, are you aware that if you are playing on this team, that anytime we're doing drills, anyone that doesn't complete the drills in the time allotted, the entire team must repeat the drills. So if you can't keep up, you would not just keep up for yourself, but you'll be affecting the entire team and all. I said, yes. He said, anyway, he'll think about it. Long story short, he comes back and says, fine, you can join the team and all the rest. So I play on this team. Of course, I don't play much. Maybe I come on like the last 2 minutes of games that were clearly winning. The kind of game where it's like 3 or 4-0. The last 2 minutes, I'll just come in, warm the ball a bit and go back to the bench. But anyway, there was this day where we were playing at home. We were having a very great season. We had like a very good team, you know. We're having a great season. We're playing a home game. And we were comfortably in the lead. It was like 4-0, very, very comfortably in the lead by like the 70th or 80th minute or so. So the coach says, you know, nods in my direction, okay, come. Because I had my whole fan club waiting for me, like all the people in school, everybody just excited, you know, the only female on the guys' soccer team. And so they put me on the field, and, you know, I'm warming up and all the rest. And then my opportunity, by the way, you know, when you're playing sports, there's some things you visualize, right? You know, there's some things you visualize during practice that, you know, if I'm on the court and I get this opportunity, this is what I will do. You just have these things you visualize, right? And finally, my quote unquote moment of opportunity came. It was a 2-on-1, myself and the leading goal scorer against just the goalkeeper of the other team. It was 2 of us on 1, just the goalkeeper. And so I kept, you know, nudging this guy, like, pass me the ball, pass me the ball, pass me the ball. And he just kept going. And all of a sudden in my mind, I said, this guy is not going to pass the ball. This guy actually, instead of him to pass the ball and let me score in front of my home crew, this guy is just going to take the shot. And, you know, I stopped running. I just gave up. I said, well, he's not going to pass the ball. You know, at the last minute, he passed the ball. I think what he had in his mind was that he was going to beat the keeper so well that there was no way I would miss that shot, right? But because there was no communication and I just assumed the worst, that this guy is being so greedy, upon being the highest goal scorer and all the rest, he's not even going to pass the ball. I stopped running. And by the time he passed the ball, I was just not in place to put that ball into the net. And you could feel the crowd. You know, you could feel the disappointment, right? I never forgot that lesson. I never did. The importance of diligence, doing your own part. If I had just done my part, if I just finished my run, whether he passed or not or whatever, I would have been good to go. But I assessed and I decided. And that became a very powerful principle for me in my personal life, in my work life. Just that importance of diligence, not trying to assume what other people mean or don't, not trying to care who else is doing their work, who is not doing their work, but just staying focused on my focus. But I learned it in a very painful way.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I stepped out a bit and I'm back in. Okay, fantastic. Wonderful, wonderful. I'm sure there are more questions we'd like to ask and more people will ask questions, but there are also people giving testimonies. Like 2 or 3 people have shared testimonies in the group, like when I said to you who your person is and all that. Someone shared about, you know, her experience when she was at First Bank, how you stood by her when there was a robbery incident and you just stayed there as a wonderful leader. Another person also said you stood by her, that all that you're sharing is exactly what you do. So it's not just talk, that you actually carry this out. So I'd just like to ask, what would you say about, you know, building people? You've talked about relationships, but your leadership style and how you relate to people. Yeah, because you've also mentioned the importance of honoring people on all the things you said. But how do we as entrepreneurs, as business people, sit down and develop maybe like principles, 2 or 3 key leadership principles that would help us move beyond it? Because it's not enough for us to know about our business. It's not enough for us to be, you know, intelligent about our sector, know about a couple of things there, but leadership, how to ensure that we have the proper culture in our organizations. What would you say to that, and how can we build such?
No, thanks for asking that, because I actually believe that, you know, of those 3 things I shared, how you operate, how you relate with people, and how you work. The missing link for most people is how you relate. The missing link why we're not able to move past a certain level is that how we relate to people, how we treat people, and how we're able to collaborate, you know, with people. I think for me, because like I said, you know, growing up, by God's grace, I did a lot of things early. And I always found myself to be the youngest person in the room. When I was in the US, I would be the youngest plus the only Black person or whatever the case might be, right? So I learned by default that, you know, I was never going to make headway by trying to, you know, raise my shoulders. There was no place to raise to. I had to be able to work with people and through people. And it helped me a lot. I also feel like in terms of, you asked like, how does that determine culture and all the rest? I think because being a young person, there are many things that I went through that I realized that, listen, it's not because I'm so special. It's because somebody gave me an opportunity, number one. Somebody gave me an opportunity, somebody believed and gave me an opportunity. So how can we create opportunities for people, right? And then I also asked myself that, okay, fine, I mentioned how I was not a banker when I came to First Bank. I was not a banker, that wasn't my space. But what I knew. I knew how to run projects. I knew, how to do process improvement. I knew how to communicate, just in terms of, and that's sort of like what I tried to bring to the table. So, for example, when I took over operations in First Bank, it's one thing to do transformation, it's still projects and all the rest. When you go into operations, that is real banking. If you don't know real banking, you will not know real banking. And one of the things that I did when I assumed that role, in fact, when I was announced in that role, let me just tell you the truth. When my boss first told me to take over operations, I said, no, you're asking the wrong person. I can't take that job. I'm not a banker. I'm not this. I'm not that. He said, okay. He called me the next day. And that night when I went home, I felt God was telling me that, but if I wanted you to do the job, would you say you can't do it? I said, okay. If he calls me back, I'll say yes. True to form, the next morning he calls me back and says, I really want you to think about this. So I really want you to do it, but it'll be your decision. Go and think about doing this head of operations. So I said, okay, I'll do it. For one good week, I didn't go to the office. We were doing a workshop outside the office and I just stayed there. Why didn't I go to the office? I felt I was wearing oversized shoes. It's one thing to say your size is size 6. And maybe you are wearing a size 7 shoe or maybe even size 8. I thought I was wearing size 6 and they now gave me size 12 shoes. So I wasn't even sure, like, how do I even engage these people in operations? When I was in transformation, I created my own team. I recruited young people from branches, people that I felt, they were young and hungry. They reminded me of myself. And it was just a matter of giving them room for expression to do their thing. And they really did their thing. Those guys did amazing things. But now operations, I was dealing with people who were professional, who had been there for a long time, and who were also much older than I was. And one of the things that helped me is me being honest with them. In our very first meeting, I told them, guys, you people are the ones that know operations. I don't have a background in operations, but this is what I know, and this is how I can help. And my role is to enable you. I thought that sincerity helped everybody just level up and say, okay, fine, now let's now relate. So I think in terms of building a culture, sincerity is important. I think respect is important. I think when you give people respect, give them their own respect, they also give you your respect as well. And I think honoring people for what they know. There's nobody that I didn't learn from. I go to learn from tellers. If the teller can explain to me what needs to be done, I ask questions, I value opinions, and I give feedback. Even if I don't agree with it, I will hear your opinion, I'll give you my feedback on it. And because I did that, I got a lot of information, a lot of input. And the combination of that input also gave me, quote unquote, superior solutions. So what I'll say from a cultural perspective is that if there can be respect, mutual respect, it's not something that we always do in Nigeria. At times, respect is only based on hierarchy, but mutual respect is important. I think thinking about, how to enable people is important. Is you're not fighting with your colleagues, you are not competing with them, you are not afraid whether they will take your position, make you look less smart or less. You are collaborating and enabling those who are, fit for purpose, so to speak, right? And then basically showing honor to all men. At First Bank, I can tell you, people say First Bank is a microcosm of Nigeria. Showing honor to all men. Just think about the complexities of Nigeria. That is, First Bank. We really reflect, Nigeria. So being able to show honor to all men was very key.
Fantastic, fantastic. I love the way you actually explained everything with the stories you also shared, because that has actually brought it to light for us. So we have another question here from Rahamat Nasiru. And she says, thank you so much, madam. I must say I've really been inspired by your talk. And her question goes thus: what was your greatest challenge, or what has been your greatest challenges while climbing the career ladder? And how have you been able to balance family and career together?
Great question. A number of different challenges. You can imagine growing up coming up your career ladder as a single female in a very senior position. I think for me, one of the first assumptions, like, how is this small girl in this position? Who does she know? She must be someone's girlfriend. She must be, all sorts of assumptions are made about you. And some of them are even communicated to you in quote unquote innocent ways. I've had people call me and say, this one, people, I really want you to settle down because people feel that you've given up marriage for career. You're so focused on career. You're not interested in marriage. I had all sorts of different things, And I remember there was a time I got one such call and I just looked at the phone. I said, God, see, these people are mocking you because I didn't put myself here. And, people are just assuming all sorts of things. So I think as a female, especially in our environment, coming up the career ladder, there are a lot of assumptions. There are a lot of even, propositions made to you just because you are single that don't come if you are married. And, there's just a lot that you deal with, but you sort of just, you make your how do I say, your stance known or your position known, and people sort of respect that. I think that's one. I think the other maybe challenge that in terms of rising up, one thing that helped me, people talk about, one of the things that helped me is I thank God for my background in consulting, right? What consulting did for me is you learn how to learn very fast because you are constantly working on different projects. You have to learn how to quickly understand an industry, quickly understand how to think about a problem and all the rest, right? And I think that background gave me an advantage because it taught me how to learn. It taught me how to learn new things very quickly. The other thing that I dealt with coming up is naivety, especially working in Nigeria. And I'm sure it's everywhere, but I think particularly in Nigeria, naivety, even when you're driving transformation, I used to have a mindset of all or nothing. It has to be like this, is black or white, and so on and so forth. And just thinking that, because you have this agenda, everybody should have this agenda. But the truth is that people are motivated by different things. So learning how to know what you are trying to drive, but try to identify, what the other person's motivation that still fits that agenda. It doesn't have to be for the same reason. We don't have to be pursuing the same thing for the same reason. You might be pursuing it for a different reason, and that's fine. And also being able to realize that at times progress is being able to move an inch forward and not maybe say, if we cannot move 5 inches, then we will not move at all. I had to learn that, especially when I was in the public sector, that at times moving an inch or 2 inches, even though you see how you can move 10, let's just first move those 2 inches. And then after that, we'll see how we'll negotiate and move, because progress is incremental at times. And just being able to understand that and being mature enough to work within that context.
Fantastic. More people. We have over 100 people who have been engaged listening to all that you've been sharing here, and that's fantastic. We appreciate all our participants as well. And we have just about 16 more minutes, so we still have a few questions that I would ask before we round up. But thank you. This is quite insightful. Now, while you were sharing your slides, I love the fact that you gave us a historical background, and I love stories. I love history, because I think one wise person says that if you don't know where you're coming from, you might not even understand where you are or where you're even going to be headed to. And it also reminded me of a documentary I watched by Ray Dalio. I think world changing order, how the world is changing and all that. And he mentioned a lot of things. So what I would ask is very simple. Your work has given you the opportunity to travel a lot, not just travel, also to work in African countries. And I want to bring it down to Africa this time. What would you say, in your opinion, that African leaders should be thinking? Because globalization, everything affects us now. Policies abroad, geopolitical issues. Now we are thinking some are trying to align with the East or the West, China and US, and world powers are changing. But what would you tell African leaders if you were going to advise them? Because there are so many things that we do and we talk about as Africa, but what 3 things would you tell them to be doing with the kind of youth population that they actually have? You mentioned that as well, and the opportunities that we have in Nigeria. So what key 3 things would you want to tell African leaders to be doing to properly position their countries for what is coming ahead?
I think definitely one of the three off the top of my head would be around skills re-engineering. I think our education system is outdated. I think, requiring that, you have to have a BSc on an outdated curriculum and all the rest is outdated. Employers saying that you need to have your NYSC and this and this and that is outdated. There are a lot of talented people today that do not have BScs, but they have certifications and they are skilled in what they need to do. So I think we need to relook at sort of almost like a skills requirement and a skills path, right? So that we're able to equip people with skills that matter in the marketplace, not just in Nigeria, but for the global market. And that would be very critical for like young people. And I think that's definitely one thing that I would do without looking too deeply is education. The second thing I would look at is to say, listen, what are the things that we can do around enabling policies? And enabling policies cut across so many different areas. But as someone who is I'm a big promoter of digital innovation and the opportunity for leapfrog, there has to be something on digital innovation. And on that one, I think one of the major things we can do is figure out how do we address this issue of data access? Because I strongly believe that if we create the infrastructure or the enablement for people to have cheap access to data and to get online, you don't have to be involved with too many other things. They will take care of themselves, whether it's through different opportunities, whether it's even through impact organizations that will come, give fellowships, give this. But one of the restricting factors is the cost of data. And it's not too complicated to address. It's a policy issue. It's a policy issue that causes us to look at it and say, what can we do? In Nigeria, for example, the cost of data is regulated. There's a minimum barrier. Can you imagine the concept? There's a minimum amount data must cost. Other countries, there's no floor. You see what I mean? This is policy. And this is why, I believe so much in the power of policy, that if we are able to just create the right policies, the market will take care of itself. In a country and a continent where you have a lot of young, energetic, skillful, and energized people. So that would be the second thing, looking at our policies, particularly policies that impact digital innovation, right? And specifically, like I said, data. On the third one, where would I sort of put my money on? On the third one, there are a number of different things. That I would look at. But on this third one, I don't know, maybe I'll take it from the... Okay, we said Africa. So on the third one, I would say I would put a lot of emphasis to say, listen, how can we encourage better trade with each other, right? And this is from a perspective of logistics as well, right? And because you said Africa, so this is not just a Nigeria thing, but it's an Africa thing. We have the Africa Free Trade, continental area. We have all of that. We see how different countries globally are posturing, adjusting supply chain, determining what's coming and all. Are we in a position to take advantage of these opportunities by looking inward and saying, listen, what are the things that we have? How can we adjust our logistic systems and our supply chains to take advantage of opportunities that are outside Africa? Oops.
Okay, welcome back.
Sorry. Okay. Sorry. I think I got lost. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. When you think about Africa, right? About sort of the raw materials required to produce these electrical vehicle batteries, right? The raw material, there's a lot in Africa, right? How are we being strategic around it, right? But again, this requires sort of that collective thinking around supply chains, what we want to do within the continent, and then how we want to position outside the continent. And it requires some adjustments to our logistics, right? Because a lot of things are just costly. Trading with ourselves, even though despite the proximity, because we've not sorted out that logistics area. I think if we could focus on those three things, things will look quite bright for us.
And I totally agree with you. I totally agree with your positions because you excellently dropped them. I also play in that digital skill space, and I think education is Very important, especially with our youth population, and being estimated that we'll still even have, we have currently the youngest population across, most parts of the world and all that. But having said this, maybe we'll just segue quickly into another part. So Deborah is asking a question here, and I'm going to just quickly read her question. So if I'll paraphrase, it has to do with your personal development. How do you handle your personal development? And she says, "Good morning, Ma. Thank you so much for this session. It's been so mind-enlightening and empowering. Please, Ma, what kind of books did you read in your 20s that helped you think in this high transformative way?" And she goes on to ask, what kind of books would you recommend for someone who wants to transform their lives and start thinking intelligently and so on and so forth? So more like, what's your personal development process like?
Okay. No, thanks for that. I tried to type the answer in the chat box, but I'll quickly go through it. In terms of books that I read that really influenced me, The Assignment by Mike Murdoch, transformative book. For me, a lot of Miles Monroe's books, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, very powerful book. But I think for me, if I had to choose one book that has influenced my life and shaped my thinking and really transformed my thoughts, is the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs, is the kind of book you can never run out of. Someone said there are 31 chapters because there's one for each day. It's like vitamins. Doing one chapter of Proverbs a day, I promise you, I guarantee you, it will transform your life. One chapter of Proverbs a day will transform your life. I've also read a lot of biographies just of people that appeal to any type. I told you I love a lot of sports figures. I read about sports figures, people in politics, different types of things. But if you could only do one thing, but don't only do that, we'll read beyond the book of Proverbs. But that's a foundational book that would really help your life. On a side note, along those lines, I'm actually putting these things. I've actually written a book on these 12 things. I'm actually editing the book now, putting in final touches. And hopefully by August or so, I will share this book. It's particularly focused on young people and trying to just capture some of these learnings in an actionable way for you to apply.
Fantastic. And by the way, for those of us that don't know, our guest speaker has written a lot of, published work around some of the things she's sharing today here. And, I've gone through a couple of articles as well. So if we go to the McKinsey.com website, just look for her name, and you definitely see her published work there. In fact, there's one that I particularly like, the one you talked about, how COVID-19 caused a global learning crisis and all that. And that really, really, opened my mind up to a lot of important things. So for those of us that want to check on some of our work, you can go there, look at the articles, read them. And of course, we've not had time to talk about fintech today, but because we're talking about your personal experience session, I'm sure there'll be other times for us to be able to discuss in depth some of those things, maybe at another forum, not particularly this one here today. We have about just 6 more minutes and we'd like to keep to time as well. And I'm sure there's still more questions coming up. But I know we've been talking more about your professional career, about policy, business and all that. So on a lighter note, I have a question I want to ask. And it's, you talked about your personal development process, and I'll tie this into this because we also know that your hobby is Pastor Oyeneyin. And he was our first guest this year to set the tone for the year and January and all that. And I just wonder, because I know Pastor Kola too very well. I follow a lot of things. So how do you even relax? Maybe at home. What kind of discussions will be at the dinner table if you are dishing out this and Pastor Kola is dishing out what he did? I don't want to believe that sometimes. I know, yes, there's personal time for other things, but we are not discussing the effects of China, global policy, Russia at the dinner table. How do you relax, really? Okay.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
He's also on the call, by the way, just for everyone to know. Thank you.
That's an interesting question. So I'll tell you a funny story to describe that. Funny enough, my younger sister had actually met KO before I did. And I remember when she met him, she said, "Oh, I really love for you to meet this person I met. He's into entrepreneurship and all the rest and so on and so forth." And I don't think she had any intention of sort of connecting us. It was just like, "Oh, you guys share some mutual interest, right?" And she made a comment that, "But anyone that marries this guy, I pray for them because they will walk. They will walk." They will work a lot, that was just her impression of him, that he's very serious, he's very intense. They will and they will work. So anyway, just as on a lighter note, but I think in terms of we do share a lot of common interests, and I think that's what makes it exciting. We're passionate about similar things, so it's just a natural passion. But we also find things to do every now and then to relax. The other day we were actually having this chat that, what are the things that we actually do for fun, and how do we increase more fun things, especially when work gets busy and everyone is sort of doing, engaged in a lot of things. But we like to travel. We don't always get to travel, especially now in these times. And then just hanging out. I'm a foodie. He's not, as you can probably tell, just from his appearance.
Oh, well.
So yeah, we just try to, hang out from time to time.
Fantastic. Okay, we have just about 4 more minutes to round up. And I can see that you also shared your Twitter handle. For those that are also trying to, at TKO Insights, we can go there. We can go to the McKinsey website as well. Once you type our full name, I'm sure you see those articles as well. I think we should read them. Trust me, they're not just theory, practicals, so many things, insightful points are there as well, so many things. And okay, a lot of people are also responding and smiling and all that. You've talked about how you relax. Okay, I know this is a business session and we're rounding up soon, but there's one key highlight as well. I know you've touched on it, but if you can quickly share, have you been in a situation whereby, I know your faith, okay, let me just bring it out. You've talked a lot about your faith, but that sometimes our wisdom, our intellect, our physical strength, or whatever it is that we think with the people we know, how they put the family we come from, the assets, the resources we have, might not just be adequate enough to go through something. So is there anything you would like to share specifically about your faith that you think, if not for God, I'm not sure. Maybe one particular story, just one story.
Sure, that one is easy. There are many different things, but a recent one that really, really impacted me. I lost my sister last year. I lost my sister, about a year ago, a year plus. And it changed my life. Nothing has ever hit me so hard. And nothing, it's not that you expect these things. I mean, nobody expects it. Nobody prays for these things, right? And I can confidently say that if not for the grace of God, if not for God's mercy, and if not, I tell people that, me and God, we didn't start today. You know what I mean? I've seen his goodness. I've seen his hand. So I can't say that something happened that I didn't like and now God is not good. No, I know God is good. My life is evidence of his goodness and of his faithfulness, right? And so that's one example of something that, if not for God, I don't know how I would have walked through that experience, how it have been. But even today, I feel like because of the grace of God, something that could have totally knocked me off, I feel like God is still working through me and he's realigning my focus. He's helping me see differently. I see totally differently. When I talk about compassion now, I speak about it even in a different lens because I understand it differently than I did a year ago or, a couple of years ago. So, yeah.
Okay. Apologies and sorry about that. But ladies and gentlemen of the experience session, this has been a wonderful session. Not just wonderful, it has been exciting. It has been inspiring. And for those of us who are still thinking, I've learned a lot of things today, I will encourage us to go back to the YouTube channel. We shared it. Just go on YouTube, look for Networks Business Club, and listen to this particular message again, this particular session. Listen to it, digest it, share it with everyone that you can share it with. This has been insightful and inspiring. So we'd like to say thank you so much to our guest speaker, Mrs. Eyitope Oyeneyin. We are indeed grateful. We appreciate your time, your presence, your knowledge, your insights, and just giving us your all. We are indeed grateful. So let us appreciate her, please, as much as we can. Use the emoji section, emojis, type, thank you. Let us thank her for her time, for everything that she has done for us today. Let us appreciate her, because it is indeed a good thing for us to honor whoever has honored us as well, and honor our leaders and our people. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you so much. So before we round up finally, yes, I'm going to call on Mrs. Obiageli Obiche to please take the closing remarks and also vote of thanks and the closing prayer. So I'm going to hand over to her now, and she's going to take this. Over to you, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Or well, it's a minute past noon, so good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay, good afternoon. I think it just turned noon. I want to honestly say that I'm so not into all the talks that people have about businesses over and over again. Sometimes you almost wonder, do they consider if these things work? But I've listened to her and I could sit here for another 10 hours listening to her. In fact, when she first started, I said, oh God, all these entrepreneurship things are for young people, and some of us are not in that realm. How is it going to benefit me now? And believe you me, I must have like 4 pages to that stuff. I was preparing for an exam, not just for myself, but I have a lot to tell them. I have 2 young adults, and I have a lot to tell them just from listening to her today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Oyeneyin. Thank you very, very much, Rita. Thank you enough. Yours is different, I must say, just for the singular reason that you are not just here telling us about something that is not doable. You are talking about things that are going to happen in the near future. You are telling us to get ourselves prepared. You are also telling people how to behave, because really and truly, a lot of younger people need to know about all these things, how to behave, how to treat people fairly, whether the person is the security guard or the person who washes your car or wherever you are, that you treat people with respect. It goes a long way. You are the second person I'm probably hearing that from. Somebody else too had told me something that happened at a younger age, just from honoring somebody who was a mere, a mere security guard, and the person held on to him and took him to the guy inside and said, "Okay, this is my brother, please help him out." So thank you for all that insight. I hope that along the line, even the younger people, when I say younger people, I'm even referring to those in high school. I hope that they can begin to learn from there, because there's so much we need to learn in Nigeria. There's so much mind change that needs to happen in this nation, especially for the very, very young ones. God bless you, and God bless everybody else who was listening. Father, I just want to say a big thank you. Thank you for today's session. Thank you for breakthroughs and miracles that will come just by listening to this. I pray that her talk and all that she has taught us today, for many, that it won't just fall by the wayside. Let it be the beginning of open doors for a lot of people who have listened today. I pray that as people grow, they too will reach out to others and affect their lives, and will remember that it was because of that topic that they had today and how they listened to it. Father, we are grateful for her life. I pray that you will refill her and refuel her. Yes, recharge her as she surges ahead. I pray that even the success she has gained in career and in family is nothing compared to what you have ahead and in store for her. I pray that unimaginable blessings will meet her, her husband, her children. Yes, Lord, I pray for all of that for her. And I pray that this business network sessions that makes availability for people will keep adding value to others, and that those who go behind and work to make these things happen, that you, oh Lord God, that you will bless them beyond their imaginations. And Lord, I pray that we all have a lovely weekend. And as we go into a new era in Nigeria, I pray that your message will come through for all of us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you once again. And thank you, Mrs. Obiageli Obiche. We appreciate you sincerely. Thank you so much. To all our guests, our participants, we say thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Networks Business Club. You can also check us on all social media at Networks Business Club. Search for us. You'll also be able to watch this particular video and also the ones we've done previously as well. So you just go there, subscribe. You see a treasure trove of videos. Subscribe, share the videos as well. And also, leave comments as much as you can. So thank you to everyone. Thank you from wherever you've joined us from. Indeed, it has been a wonderful experience session today for the month of May 2023. And at this point, we just want to say thank you. And watch out for our next session coming up and our next edition next month. We'll definitely announce this through our channels. Just watch out, be on the look through our email, through our social media channels as well, and you'll be able to know who our next guest speaker will be. On behalf of the team and everyone of the Networks Business Club, I remain Olusegun Oyetunji, your anchor for today. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. And happy holidays to all the others who are also having holidays as well. And Children's Day as well. We must appreciate the children as well. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much.
Nigeria, which is a giant of Africa, was in 2016 declared as having the largest economy in Africa. Lagos, which is a commercial nerve center of West Africa, has become a major hub for international business and services, and recently labeled as one of the most desirable investment destinations in sub-Saharan Africa. Rising above the skyline of this prestigious city is the first ever tri-tower building in West Africa, which is a unity of 3 towers combined into structural beauty and functionality. Trinity Towers is a unique and world-class development brought to the market with modern technology and state-of-the-art facilities. Carefully and futuristically conceived, it is an edifice which provides a sync between business, functionality, elegance, and lifestyle. This meticulously designed mixed development of commercial, retail, hospitality, and leisure space is located at the heart of the fast-developing commercial center of Veniru, Victoria Island, Lagos, Nigeria. Trinity Towers is a development of the RCCG City of David with a trademark of excellence, employing the services of ITV, contractors and consultants who are best in class. This multifaceted building is set to raise the bar of A-grade real estate in Nigeria. It is a state-of-the-art development with importance given to structural detail, all at a competitive rental price that is market-friendly. The iconic design, easily accessible location, futuristic specifications, and perfect blend of office and relaxation facilities sets a new standard for Nigeria's architectural landscape. The development boasts of over 13,000 square meters of contemporary real estate spanning 12 floors, with multi-story car park for 670 cars, a 5,000-seater concert hall, other multi-purpose halls seating over 2,000. There is indoor amusement for children, shopping strip, 2 cinema halls, a gymnasium, helipad, games arcade, medical center, cafe and restaurant, banking halls, ATM gallery, and lots more. The development is within easy reach of Lagos financial, commercial, and residential environments, and has neighbors such as 4 Points by Sheraton, Lagos Oriental Hotel, ExxonMobil Headquarters, the Palms Shopping Mall, Civic Center, Hard Rock Cafe, and lots more. Trinity Towers offers a distinctive presence, thereby changing the skyline of Western Victoria Island. Welcome to a whole new experience of business and leisure from 3 towers in one elegant building, the Trinity Towers. This edifice is set to be the best and most functional building Nigeria has seen to date. For further details on how to be part of this dream by taking a space in the Trinity Towers, please contact the Estate Links Group or Knight Frank and Rutley Nigeria on 0818 001 0000. The future is indeed here.